Hey guys, we're the Hard Time Shaman podcast, training up a better class of man. And today we are continuing on our medical crash course series with cold weather injuries. We just got northern here in Texas and everyone's freaking out and my bones hurt. Everyone's snotty mess. So, why not kick it off? Tell you what you shouldn't do. But before we get into it, we do want to, of course, always recognize our patrons. Sven, Brandon, Ethan, thanks for sticking there with us. Thank you for keeping the lights on. It helps so much, guys. And the more people that donate to the cause, more people help, the more we can spend, the more time that we can spend, the more resources that we can spend on this, on getting good content out to you guys. And we have a lot of things in the works right now, but we just expedite those, and you'll be able to do a lot of cool stuff. So thank you, and we'll see you guys after the main session of this show. But cold weather injuries, our references for today: FMSD, gosh, Marines in there, weird acronyms. Field Medical Service Technician, 1404, Manage Environmental Cold Injuries, Wilderness Medicine, and Pre-Hospital Trauma Life Support Military Edition. So, overview. A cold injury is defined rather as a tissue injury produced by exposure to cold.
Are you okay? Are you having a stroke?
I might be. It could be. I'll ignore it. I'll handle it after the show. Cold itself is not the only factor in determining whether an injury will occur. So your duration of exposure, humidity, wind, altitude, clothing, medical conditions, prior medical conditions, behavior, and individual variability all contribute to your risk of injury. Cold injuries can occur at non-freezing and freezing temperatures. And trench foot, frostbite, and hypothermia are the cold injuries of the greatest military significance. There are other injuries, but we're talking about more just functional injuries. I'll stop you from doing cool guy stuff with your cool guy friends. Those are going to be your big ones.
Oh yeah, I can remember us being at I think it was NTC, and Doc was one around checking all of us for trench foot.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
dude! The closest I ever got to trench foot was Afghanistan.
Oh, dude.
After going through all those, all those rice fields.
Yeah.
And just absolutely not, like, just the stark white of my foot, the ridge is going up into, like, oh dude, my team leader took one look at it. He's like, yeah, you don't get to shower, like, you're like, sit here, air your feet out, once they actually have color, then you can go take a shower. I was pissed off because I stank. Like, we were out all day, like from 3 to whenever we got back, and it was absolutely miserable. It sucked.
I'm sure, man.
But
That's
dude,
terrible.
but trench foot, that's just scary stuff. Honestly, before we get into like all the like knowledge portion of this class, I had a buddy, my basic buddy, he went to Hohenfeld, Germany,
Ooh, yeah.
and he said he said during a field problem, like they were just out doing their thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then he woke up in the hospital.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he just was gone, and they're like, yeah, you can't go to the field anymore, you're done. Like,
The hell happened?
I have no idea, just some sort of, like, I don't know if he passed out, I don't know if his body just shut down, but yeah, so he just woke up in the hospital. It's like, holy crap, dude, that's
Dude, that's wild. Like,
that's really not great.
yeah, it's like, you can lock out your knees and pass out that way, but dude, if it's a cold injury and you wake up in the hospital, you had a bad time.
Oh
For
yeah,
sure.
a terrible time. I mean, it'll sneak up on you. It's scary, dude. Like, oh.
Yeah, I
Oh,
wouldn't know.
and one last thing for the intro. So hidden cold injury, dehydration, for sure.
Mm.
So dehydration occurs very easily in the cold, particularly with increased physical activity. You don't get thirsty. You don't get thirsty. When you're super cold, you don't get thirsty. You almost have to remind yourself to drink water. I don't know
Hmm.
why. It's uncanny though. Like I remember going all day, and it's like I had two full canteens. It's like, oh crap. Like I just didn't feel it. Then you drink a little bit and you'd be done. It's like, oh my gosh, man. Like team leaders had to go to the dudes like drink water. Just I know you're not thirsty. Just do it. Because
Yeah,
just like in the heat, you need to properly hydrate. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time.
right. Yeah,
Oh
no, it's
goodness,
great
man.
that they did for you too, because like you said, most guys just don't even think about it. It's being on the farm, bro. Like it never occurred to me, like ever. So I would work out cold all the time, and I'd get done. I didn't drink any water for like 12 hours.
Yeah,
I get back inside and I sit down. I'm just like, I'm thirsty. I proceed to drink a gallon of water. Like, oh,
yeah.
that's right.
It's crazy, man. And like you said, it'll just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, well,
But kicking off with predisposing factors. So, predisposing factors for getting cold injury, a previous cold injury, just like a heat injury. If you have had a heat injury in the past, a cold injury in the past, you are more susceptible to those in the future. So you need to, if you have guys under, in your teams under your command, you need to look out for those guys. But persons with a previous cold injury, especially recent injuries, are at higher risk for subsequent cold injuries. They're more sensitive to the cold, and you need to take actions to protect them. They need to take actions to protect themselves. So, really listening to your body, really watching them, and just being really hard line on like clothing, on activity, on hydration, all that stuff, because your
dude, yeah,
body will fall into that rut.
yeah. And another thing you need to watch out for is fatigue, because with a slow metabolic rate and an inability to increase, we'll start that over. Another thing to watch out for is fatigue. So with a slower metabolic rate and inability to increase your physical activity, it's going to put you in. It'll put poorly conditioned personnel at a far increased risk of a cold injury, and mental and physical fatigue. It causes apathy, and that'll lead to neglect of cold weather protection principles. So once you're tired, you're not really going to care. You just want to get done, and that's definitely the wrong mentality to have. That'll get you hurt for sure.
Yep, discipline. When you're cold and tired, when you're hot and tired, when you're dirty and tired, like when
When
that
you're tired,
discipline starts to slip, when you're tired, like uh, that discipline will start to slip, and you start to feel it, especially on the stuff where like everything that you're doing is just force protection, just like taking care of your personnel, like that, like it stacks up so fast. You get more
mhm.
injuries, you get more people having to watch these people, and it just snowballs.
Yep,
Snowballs. Uh,
yeah,
uh, age, rank, position. Most cold injuries are suffered by military personnel are dudes that are between 17 and 25 years of age, because these guys are generally less experienced and doing more stuff in the cold. As one of our LTs used to say, lift with your privates.
yeah, yeah. Hey, doesn't your balls?
Decreased incidence of cold injury among higher ranks, ages, people with more experience is a reflection of combination of their experience, less exposure, i.e., make someone else do it, and their receptivity to training. So they know more and better, and they take care of themselves.
But maybe because they just sit in office and let the rest of us do all work.
or the
I mean,
striker or
seriously.
whatever. It comes with the
Yeah.
turf. Like that's literally what the manual is saying. Like
Mhm.
it's yeah. I mean, it comes with the turf.
Speaks like them.
Sucks to suck, nerd.
Yeah. There's a reason they got MSM for doing nothing. Another factor is discipline training experience. Like you said, just gonna reiterate. Well trained, disciplined personnel are far better able to care for themselves with personal hygiene, care of the feet, changing clothing, and other simple, effective preventive measures. Because I mean, I can't tell you how often I actually had to babysit freaking 18, 19, 20-year olds who just didn't have common sense. Had to keep checking on them for personal hygiene. It's just like, why does an 18, 19, or 20-year-old not know how to brush their teeth, shower properly, wear deodorant,
Change your socks.
floss, change your socks, freaking floss your freaking teeth? It's
I
wild.
mean, just like I don't know, brush your teeth like in the morning and at
Yeah,
night. Like
yeah.
yeah.
Use wash. Like, come on, man. I don't want to smell your freaking funky salmon breath. I really don't.
But I mean, and that's why we talked about team leaders in the past, but outside of strategy, outside of tactics, and all your other cool army stuff, like just the common sense, like the dad portion of being a team leader is the most important. I mean, just taking care of your dudes, because I mean, you have to think a lot of these kids that you have, like they're just getting out of high school. They don't know anything about anything. They don't know why they have to do this stuff every day. I mean, like,
Oh
it's
God.
sad to say, and it sounds stupid, but like literally, you have to, it's up to you to make sure they're tracking all that stuff. Because if they don't, one, that's a reflection on you. Two, something's going to take them out of the fight sooner or later. It's going to be something small and stupid that they should have been doing anyways,
Yeah.
like getting a wicked infection in their foot because they didn't change their socks for 3 days and
Mhm.
now they can't walk.
Mm.
Like, and that's a casualty. If you cannot walk, you cannot fight.
Yeah.
Like just little things, man.
It is amazing though, and get that ready because when it comes to these privates, the best quote I ever saw came from the show Ozark. The chick says, "I don't," shit," and that's exactly what privates were like.
A memoir.
They barely need to wipe their own butts. It's crazy.
Yeah. Army. Psychological
Mhm.
factors. So personality and motivation are significant in determining adaptability. Your grit, dude. Like
Yeah.
if you can just grin and bear it. Like in intense cold, like negative 25, golly, negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit, the mind as well as the body is adversely affected. Yeah, no crap. An individual
No
becomes
kidding.
numb and indifferent to non-essential tasks. I remember, like, and this wasn't the worst I've ever had it, but to that point, for me, army wise, while I was in basic and we had dug our little fighting positions and everything, I remember I was laying there pulling guard, and then it started to rain. And that rain filled up my little fighting position with me in it, completely soaked. And I was like, why the hell is all this water? 'Cause I did not kick out a drain hole. And so I looked back behind me. I kicked out a drain hole and it all leaked down, but I was completely soaked to the bone. And then my shift ended and I just laid there and shivered until I fell asleep. I was
You
like, this is the worst thing ever. And then, because I was in the army later, it got worse. Um,
But of course it
essential
did.
tasks require more time to complete and are more difficult to accomplish. Combat anxiety, which produces immobility, disorganization, carelessness, coupled with sweating and vasoconstriction in the extremities, can predispose Murray, to cold injury. So yeah, dude, like you're off doing stuff, you're stressed, your body's doing the stuff that your body's supposed to be doing, but for an for an extended period of time, and then you're not seeking out shelter, you're not, you know, eating and resting, you're staying in that environment. Yeah, man, it takes a toll. I remember shaking so hard one day because we were stuck outside. Like, I think it was even like an index or something. And we were still just like hanging out, like bitter cold, like dead of winter. There's no leaves on the trees or anything, just sitting in this grove of just husks, like shivering so hard. Like I felt like I was pulling a muscle in my back. Like I was just like baking. I'm like, this is so great. I wish this would suck more, honestly. And then, like, as we're smoking, I'm just like, man, I don't even smoke. This sucks. Like, at least they've got something going for 'em, man.
Yeah. I mean, better you than me.
Oh gosh. Yeah. It's just like, dang. Oh. And last pull I have here. Just trying to develop that, that mental toughness, building a positive attitude. Uh, one to the cold, but just to the situation in general. Any degree of mental toughness or discipline can help you if, just to complete the task at hand. Just that idea of just like, I am doing this for a reason. This suck is going to end at some point can help get you there.
Really, you just need to keep the mentality of this could always be worse
Yep. Yeah,
and
holy
just get
crap,
on.
dude. We could have been in the Coast Guard.
Yeah. Yeah. Could have been the
At least
Coast
we have
Guard,
our
could have been
pride.
in the Nat Girls.
Yeah.
Ugh, at least we have our pride. That's 100%. Okay. So one other factor is nutrition. So with a poor nutrition or just eating incomplete meals, these this can contribute to cold injuries. During cold weather operations, make sure you're encouraging your guys to eat well balanced meals, whether this is MREs or even cold weather rations.
Eat food.
Yep, eat 'em. Even if it's the crappy like field eggs, try to eat them, but don't eat them because they're
Yeah.
terrible.
Eat something. It's getting your metabolism going. You know,
Yes,
your for one, your body needs, that fuel to do the things that it's doing, including shivering to keep you warm. Um,
yeah,
but
stop
just that
shivering.
movement that, as you're metabolizing everything, that helps warm you up. So other injuries, so injuries resulting in significant blood loss, right? So massive hemorrhaging or shock reduce the effective circulation to extremities and predispose a patient to a cold injury. So that is why you keep your shock patients warm because they're not circulating properly. Um, Also, any injuries that are keeping your dudes immobile can lead to cold injuries. They're not able to move around. They're not able to, move to keep warm. They're they're gonna die.
Contrary to popular belief, standing where you are and shivering is not a good method for getting warm.
So you remember the Revenant?
Yes,
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
yeah, I can't forget that movie.
I cannot believe he didn't win more awards. That just blows my mind.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you're on the daily list. So,
Yeah, screw him. But at
and
the same time, like, what a
recommendations.
movie.
Right. No, that was great. He's had a lot of mirrors. It is surprising he hasn't won. Except for like, did he eventually win?
No, oh no, I never follow that kind of stuff.
I don't. I really don't either. I feel like if he was going to win, it was going to be for Wolf of Wall Street or The Revenant. But he obviously didn't win
Yeah,
for The
he
Revenant.
really, like, he really went into it in the road. I mean, he goes in hard in all his movies, but
Yeah.
yeah, that one just I felt like I was in Firefly almost the whole movie.
Oh, dude. Yes.
Like it
Yes,
was
it
so
was.
immersive. Like especially, oh my gosh, when he was going through that snowstorm and he finds that one outcast Indian, like with the bison.
Oh, oh God.
It's like I felt so isolated and hopeless. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a good movie.
Dude,
Like,
yes.
oh, anyways, drugs and
Oh,
medications.
yeah. Drugs and medications. Cocaine and Advil. So medications that cause vasoconstriction and increase urinary output or your sweating should definitely be avoided. Did definitely be avoided because that will give you just absolute freaking dehydration for sure. Uh, Also, tobacco and caffeine products. This is tea or coffee. Those cause vasoconstriction and poor circulation, so avoid those as well. Alcohol is also a vasodilator, and because of its anesthetic effects, uh, intoxicated patients feel neither the cold nor respond to it appropriately. So, danger will
I
rob.
feel warmer. It should be fine, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Except for the
Yeah. Absolutely.
vasodilation brings, the blood to your capillaries and away from your core where
Yeah.
it needs to be to
Yep.
keep you warm. And yeah, we had a lot of really, really, really dead drunk guys in the past. So learn from
Oh
that.
yeah. There's history books just littered with those kind of issues.
What a time. Contributing factors. I'm just going to blast through these just so we can get onto the good stuff.
The fun part.
Um,
Yeah.
but contributing factors, environmental factors. So weather and temperature, obviously, are the predominant factor that will modify the rate of body heat loss. Temperature, freezing temperatures are not necessary for cold injury. It's not necessary to be in a freeze, a literally freezing environment to get a cold injury. Of 428 cases of hypothermia in 1 year, 69 were in Florida.
Nice.
Nice. Humidity. The effects of the effects rate of freezing and non-freezing injuries. So obviously the water in the air will affect that. Yay, science. Precipitation increases rate of body heat loss. Wind greatly accelerates body heat loss. And activity. Too much or too little activity may cause or contribute to cold injuries. Overactivity creates large amounts of heat loss through rapid and deep breathing, and perspirations trapped in clothing reduces its insulating value. This is why when you're in the army and you're about to go do things, they tell you to, take layers off because you're going to sweat and then you're going to die. Conversely, immobility causes decreased heat production with resulting cooling in the extremities. So,
Yeah. I definitely left my laptop on during like a dude. It was a long movement,
you're a
and
monster.
I
I'd
I
sweat through
was
that thing, dude.
dude. I was ready to pass the. It was horrible. Our PL or not our PL, but our platoon sergeant. The one that cheated on his freaking PT test. Stuck me in the the gunner seat of a Humvee to pull security in a freaking um. I think we had on our gas mask at that time. So I had the gas mask on. I had the waffle top on
Gosh.
underneath my stuff. I was ready to die. I was 100% ready to die because it was cold before we started the movement, and then I started slowly heating up during the movement. And then once we get there, the sun was up and it was hot as hell. So I was ready to die at that point. It's a fun little tidbit there. When they tell you to take that stuff
Yeah.
off, take stuff off.
Yeah. Take it off. That's miserable. Screw that. I was gonna say
Yeah.
I'd be dead. I
Oh yeah.
I I'm hot blood, dude. I sweat so easily.
Oh yeah.
And
I do.
like anything other than silkies, I was sweating. Like it was
Oh yeah.
miserable.
100%. This podcast is sponsored by Blackbeard Firestarter. Blackbeard Firestarter has been our first choice in Firestarters since they introduced their Firestarter rope years ago.
Blackbeard offers their fire starters, their fire plugs, arc lighters, ferro rods, stormproof matches, everything you need to get a fire started.
Their products are made right here in the US, wind and waterproof, have an insane burn time. They're basically dummy proof.
And help you out, Blackbeard let us cherry pick from their store everything that we want, everything that we thought you needed to get a fire started, and we call it our Hard Time Strong Men Fire Kit. On top of that, they're also offering a 15% discount on anything in their store when you enter code STRONGMEN at checkout.
We can't recommend Blackbeard enough. They stand behind their products, and so do we.
Be sure to check them out at blackbeardfire.com and on Instagram at blackbeardfire. And as always, stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight. That leads us to types of cold injuries. We have chilblains, snow blindness, hypothermia, frostbite. So chilblains or pernio. These are small, inflammatory, uncomfortable, mild skin lesions caused from being exposed to damp, non-freezing ambient temperatures. The hands, ears, lower leg, feet are involved the most commonly, and they are more likely to develop in those with poor peripheral circulation. They're also caused by exposure to air temperatures just above freezing, more likely to occur in dry, cold areas with high humidity. Symptoms include usually occur several hours after exposure to cold, appear as nodular plaques, patches of skin, intense pruritus, so itching, and burning paresthesia, numbness. Treatment for this includes just supportive care in nature, gradually rewarming the exposed area at room temperature, washing and drying the exposed affected area. You can apply a dry, soft, sterile bandage to cover the area. And symptoms usually subside with elimination of the cold. If you've ever had them, they are very annoying. I've had them before. They're not fun. So snow blindness. This is the burning of the This is the burning of the conjunctive. This is snow blindness is the burning of the conjunctiva. Conjunctivia. Conjunctivia.
Conjunctivi.
Conjunctivi. Thank you. Jesus Christ, I'm here just going, how retarded am I? So snow blindness is the burning of the conjunctivi and superficial cells of the cornea by
Conjunctiva.
ultraviolet light.
Conjunctiva. I didn't see what you're actually reading. My bad.
You're retarded. I hate you so much. Anyway, click
again.
Snow blindness is the burning of the conjunctiva and superficial cells of the cornea by ultraviolet light from exposure to bright reflections from snow. It is literally blinding you. It is miserable. It's
Blinded by the light.
Blinded by light, literally. It's caused by exposure to the sun's ultraviolet rays in conjunction with great lighting conditions, whiteout snow conditions, or bright sunny conditions in a snow-covered environment. I actually got this while I was skiing one year.
So when you're out in the snow and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty, stop it. Put on some sunglasses.
Yeah. I was actually, was I skiing or snowboarding? I think I was snowboarding, actually. Snowboarding without goggles down. Goggles had the UV protection on them. Yeah, I was being dumb. Symptoms: gritty sensation in the eyes, pain, increase lacrimation.
Lacrimation.
Yeah.
Tearing.
Increase lacrimation or tearing.
Tearing, rather.
Yeah. Tearing. Thank you. Photophobia, vision, and headache. Treatment for this is it sucks. Yeah, you got to prevent your further UV exposure. So wear sunglasses. If those sunglasses are available, has the affected eye. Oral analgesics, so NSAIDs, but do not put local analgesics into the eyes. Don't put bleach in your veins. Do not put steroid medications into the eye. And all else fails, Casovac. Casovac as optional environment permits.
Can't see, you can't fight.
Can't see, can't fight. 100%. 100%. You are now casualty. Hypothermia. Hypothermia is Oh, you want to jump in?
That's it. I might as well. Yeah.
Or
Hypothermia. Condition in which the core body temperature is below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So your normal body temperature is around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. Hypothermia renders a casualty unable to generate sufficient heat production to return to homeostasis or normal bodily functions. Hypothermia can occur in environments with temperatures well above freezing. So, before getting on with the document, I grew up in Oregon. We would have kids freeze, or we'd have kids die every single year. They would drown every single year, swimming in the rivers because the rivers were freezing, and these kids would get hypothermia. They'd cramp up and they drown every single year. We'd have at least one. So, more you know. Inadequate clothing and physical exhaustion contribute to the loss of body heat and the development of hypothermia. So, hypothermia, acidosis, so too much acid in the body's fluids, and coagulopathy, so blood clotting disorder, constitute the triad of death in drama patients. The mortality in combat casualties with hypothermia is double that of normothermic, so people with normal temperature, casualties with similar injuries. Hypothermia, not good.
no,
Hypothermia occurs regardless of the ambient temperature. It can and does occur in both hot and cold climates because of the difficulty, time, and energy required to actively rewarm casualties. Significant attention should be paid to preventing hypothermia from occurring in the first place. So, causes: prolonged exposure to cold and/or wet conditions, inadequate clothing or protection, dehydration and/or inadequate nutrition, poor physical condition, slow metabolic rate, and inability to increase physical activity puts the poorly conditioned at risk. Traumatic injuries, resuscitation with cold fluids or blood can lead to hypothermia. Alcohol and drugs. Alcohol is a vasodilator, and because of the anesthetic effects, intoxicated subjects neither feel the cold nor respond to it appropriately. Stuff we already know, stuff we already been talking about. So yeah, that's why you have warming kits in all your trauma stuff, because hypothermia is going to sneak up on you and it'll bite you.
it will bite you
it's a
hard.
it's a bugger, dude. The the more you learn, so when I was a kid, we'd go to the beach, right? The Pacific Ocean, on the wrong
Ooh,
side from where you should be swimming around in. And we would go out and look for sand dollars. And I remember as a kid, it was just normal that you're like, okay, like in 5 or 10 minutes, my legs are going to go numb and then it won't hurt anymore to go look for sand dollars. Like, it's just like, as an adult looking back, it's like, what the hell was I thinking? Oh my goodness.
is miserable, dude.
Dude, terrible. Oh, yeah. Oh, but stages of hypothermia. So, stage one, shivering. Your body's main mechanism to generate heat. It increases your metabolic rate by increasing muscle tension, which leads to repeated bouts of muscular contraction and relaxation. So when you shiver, your body is forcing yourself to move rapidly. Little small movements generates heat. There's a wide range of individual differences at which shivering starts and stops, but typically shivering starts when the core temperature is 94 to 97 degrees Fahrenheit, or 34.4 to 36 degrees Celsius, and continues until the core temperature is 84 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, or 29 to 31 degrees Celsius. If you're in a cold environment and you stop shivering,
You're gonna have
it's
problems.
not a good sign. Yeah, it's not a good sign.
No,
Not good signs. Not good things are going to happen to you.
not at all.
Mild hypothermia. So, individual response to cold varies. In general, body temperatures from 93 to 97 degrees Fahrenheit constitute mild hypothermia. In this range, the casualty is in an excitation or responsive stage. They will usually remain conscious. However, they may start to exercise poor judgment or have irrational behavior. The body's natural defense mechanism, shivering, will eventually diminish. The body will attempt to retain and generate heat by increasing heart rate, blood pressure, and cardiac output. The respiratory rate will increase, which in the long run only cools the body more by breathing in cold air and losing moisture through respirations. Dude, it is. Ugh. Hypothermia is a freaking horror movie.
Yeah, it's
Like,
terrible.
oh, dude, it is so. I've seen so many accounts. Like, gosh, there was one. I don't remember if I read it or I was watching a video on it, but um, this guy was visiting a buddy. I don't know if it was in Alaska or somewhere cold, right? Went driving out to his cabin and like the road was blocked or something. And so he took out his skis and he's like, all right, I'm just gonna, it's like, I think it's across this way, cut off the trail, went and he was going. Like exactly like an idiot, right? Of course he gets lost and everything, but like the way your body works, like eventually you'll feel hot. And so when they found him, he had stripped off most of his clothes, like all of his clothes. And
But
in his last moment of clarity, he was trying to put on his gloves again to get warm.
oh, buddy,
Like, and he survived. They got him and they got him warmed up, but it's just, you'll find so many cold casualties that have stripped off their clothes because their
yeah,
body feels hot to them. Like, it is,
yeah,
God, dude, it is a nightmare. It is terrible. Ugh.
yeah,
But moderate hypothermia. So moderate hypothermia occurs when the core temperature is between 86 and 92.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Cognitive abilities become more difficult, and the patient becomes stuporous and does not respond to painful stimuli. Shivering is replaced by progressive muscular rigidity. In the initial excitation phase, heart rate, blood pressure, and cardiac output all rise. With decreasing temperatures, these all decline. The patient in this stage is at risk for lethal cardiac dysrhythmias and severe hypothermia. When the core temperature is below 86 degrees Fahrenheit, the patient is in severe hypothermia. The casualty will be unconscious with no response to pain. Vital signs will be barely detectable or non detectable without immediate and intensive treatment. This patient will die. So keep that in mind, right? So what I just say, vital signs will be barely detectable or non-detectable. So this patient is still alive, but they're literally frozen. So if you have a cold, if you have a cold weather casualty, don't count them out just out of hand because there have been a concerning amount of instances in the in history where people have brought in casualties. They've warmed up and come back from the dead. It seemed like because they've
yeah,
literally like defrosted them.
yeah. What's the saying? It's you're not dead until you're warm and dead.
Yes, thank you. Oh, it's such a good line. Yeah, you're not dead till you're warm and dead.
And this is exactly what they're talking about. There, if you've ever watched any medical show ever, there are instances of this kind of thing happening. Whether it's to get stuck out cold and brought in the hospital, declared dead because there's no pulse, then they warm up and they're still alive. But the saying, like we said, is you're not dead until you're warm and dead. There may not be pulse when there is because the heart is beating so freaking slow, or it's just basically stopped because of the cold. But
Yeah.
once your body warms back up, the heart can magically start freaking pumping again. And if it doesn't on its own, you can manually get it going.
Do
As
not
long as it's been
withhold basic or advanced life support until core temperature has returned to normal.
correct. Although, if patient has been stuck in a cold enough area, for too long and you try to do CPR on them while they're still cold, you will break through their cage and kill them. Just saying.
Mama didn't raise no quitter.
I didn't raise quitter.
You
I'm
use
going to
CPR, you're gonna break
manually.
the ribs anyways.
I'm going to manually.
I'm just gonna squeeze it.
That hard.
All right, you want to go through the rest of this bullet?
Yeah, all the rest of these 6 pages.
Yeah.
Long thing. All right. Treatment of hypothermia. Like we just said, a patient is not dead until they are warm and dead. The sprays was created after many patients survived prolonged hypothermic events and leave CPR in the field. No matter what your initial impression of the casualty in the field, do not withhold basic or advanced life support until the core temperature has returned to normal, like you said. Maintain your ABCs if CPR is initiated. Maintain extensive rewarming efforts to ensure circulation of warm blood to the body's core. Move the casualty to a warm shelter to prevent further heat loss. Remove wet clothing if situation allows. Loosen or remove constrictive clothing. Warm, moist air via boiling water or hot shower. Inhaling is the fastest way to warm the core. Sleeping bag rewarming. Place your patient in a bag with 1 or 2 buddies. Apply heating pad or packs in the groin, armpits, and neck. Warm bath water, temperature above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but below 108 degrees. Warm drinks if they're conscious. Monitor the vital signs.
Do not try to warm somebody up if they're unconscious by just pouring a warm drink down their throat. Please don't do that.
You will have a drowning victim.
Not good vibes.
No, it's gonna kill the mood, bro. Monitor vital signs and observe for cardiac abnormalities. Monitor the core temperature rectally, so you're getting that up the booty hole. You just are.
Look, you
And
came to party, right?
yeah, every time,
Just like Diddy.
just like Diddy. Also use warm IV solutions. Pre-warm the solution in warm water or between MRE heaters.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier, but yeah, man, if you're trying to if you're gonna try a fluid resuscitation on somebody and it's a cold casualty, make sure your fluid's warm.
You don't use cold IVs.
Yeah, just knock the ice off and that'll be good.
Jesus.
That's fine.
So when I was at the hospital there at Hood at Darnell, God love her, I swear to God, this nurse knew.
Probably
She
was.
had just taken this IV, this saline solution out of the fridge. Did not warm it up. Hooked it up to my IV, and holy crap, I felt my body temperature drop like a freaking sack of potatoes. I went from being semi-warm to absolutely freezing my nuts off in about half a second.
Hey, you're really cute. Can I please get a blanket? Like,
Like, hey, really dumb. Can you warm the next one up, please? Good Lord.
oh goodness. Prevention measures. So education. Your dudes, your
Yeah.
leaders. Screw that. So prevention measures. Education of your dudes, education of your leaders is the number one preventive measure in this pathology. So activity levels, steady, constant activity. Avoid quick bursts of activity. So move around, shake your arms around a little bit, not running around, not doing a bunch of push-ups, not doing a bunch of crazy stuff, because then you're going to sweat and you're going to get colder. Stands to reason. Body system. So train your dudes to observe each other for symptoms. Watch out for your buddies. And train your personnel to rewarm their extremities, their fingers and toes, by holding, not rubbing, their buddies' hands or feet. So we say not rubbing because if you are in, was that like the second stage hypothermia? So, when your hands and fingers go numb, okay, if you're rubbing that against something, you actually be causing damage to the tissue and not
Yes.
know it. So, not great. And personal measures. So, Marine Corps uses the acronym COLD to describe cold weather protection. I think Army uses colder, but the bones are the same. So, C, keep clothing clean and free of oil and dirt. Oil and dirt uh, on your clothing quickly loses its insulating effectiveness. So it closes up all the pores in the fabric, doesn't let it breathe, all that stuff. Oh, avoid overheating. There are more heat exhaustion cases in a cold environment because of overdressing for the type of work performed. Overdressing and overexertion cause an increase in body heat production and decreased heat dissipation. As body temperature increases, there's a corresponding increase in perspiration, which causes saturation of clothes with sweat. Both conditions lead to cold injuries. L. Layer correctly. Clothes should be loose to trap air between layers, which produces the insulating effect necessary for survival in the cold. That is such a cool piece of freaking science to me. So, like, have you seen the cold weather hammocks systems that they
Hmm.
have?
Yep.
So they literally have an underlayment that is just an insulation that traps the air in there. I saw a dude cold camping, with a hammock in negative degree temperatures. And he's just chilling.
Was he just using the quilt?
Yeah. Well, he
Nice.
had a quilt, he had the hammock, and then the underlayment for the hammock that trapped the air in there,
Nice.
and he was chilling. I mean, it's crazy. Um, tight and constricting, tight and constrictive clothing produces cold injuries. There can be as many as 7 layers of clothing used to protect personnel in a cold environment. So we talk about in past episodes, but the whole Army's cold weather system is a system.
Yep.
From the silkies to waffle to your normal fatigues and your outer stuff. I mean, layer upon layer upon layer, it all works together. And the keep clothing dry. If clothing becomes wet, so is the skin, which will promote cooling and frostbite. Change wet clothing at the first opportunity.
Man. Speaking of frostbite, frostbite is the actual freezing of tissue fluids in the skin and subcutaneous or the fat tissues. Ice crystals form between and inside the cells with resulting tissue destruction. And when I mean destruction, I mean destruction, like necrosis. Most susceptible body parts are those areas furthest from the body's core, such as your hands, feet, fingers, toes, male genitalia. Cause of this is the tissue
What
does
a terrible, terrible way to die. Sorry, I didn't mean
literally,
to cut you off.
literally freezing your nuts off.
Oh,
That's horrible. Ugh.
dude, imagine walking then. Oh,
Yeah, just like,
oh, oh.
yeah, that horrible. Ugh. So tissue does not freeze at 32 degrees Fahrenheit because cells contain electrolytes that prevent tissue from freezing until skin temperature reaches approximately 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So when the tissue does freeze, ice crystals form, they expand, and cause damage to the surrounding tissue. Depending on your wind velocity and air temperature, the exposure time necessary to produce frostbite kind of varies from either a few minutes to several hours. And honestly, if it gets cold enough, it'd be seconds. Just seconds. Ugh,
My
I don't
dad.
even think about
Can
that.
I jump in with a story really quick?
Yeah, man, go.
Sorry, man. That just made me think of like I was thinking about like the 20 degrees Fahrenheit was when it can start. Like I remember walking around in like my boxers and my just like morning slippers in less than that. It's like you idiot. The hell were you thinking?
Yeah, yeah.
And my dad grew up in Wisconsin, right? Which I'll say that but this about like most northern places that get this cold. Like I don't feel like God really wanted us there or didn't want us to settle there or like live there. Cause like
Hmm.
he'd like go to school in the morning, he'd open his front door and it'd be snowed over and he'd have to tunnel out.
Oh, dude.
And it got so cold. Like it would get so cold where like they put out over the radio like they couldn't go outside, like because they would die.
That
And he said that
well,
when he was a kid, it was like either his brother or a buddy, like they were all hanging out and they're like, "Oh man, you should go pee outside." And he peed and it froze midstream
oh God.
and they had to bring him in front of the fire so he could melt. It's like, "Oh my gosh." Just the horror. Oh,
It's
yeah.
the worst. It's a worse version of Chris Story, where the kid gets his tongue stuck to the pole.
Oh, dude.
Instead, you're freaking
I was
nuts are
snowboarding
freezing.
one time. I was up on the lift and my glove froze to the like to the rail.
Isn't it
I had
scary?
to I had to rip it off and I was like missing half my glove. I was like, "Oh, holy crap. No, screw that." Like, dude,
Yeah,
that not okay.
yeah,
Yeah. But just imagine
exactly.
like
Just think
ripping
about
off the first layer of your freaking tongue. Ugh, dude.
or your hand, or your balls, or
Any appendage.
your
Yeah.
leg. Yeah, yeah. It's terrifying. Like I can remember so many times going skiing and snowboarding, and yeah, like you said, I would touch something with my glove, and it would be stuck to it, and I would have to basically just rip it off of whatever I just touched.
Yeah.
Just
Golly, dude.
it makes you think. It's just like, thank God that wasn't my hand.
Yeah, dude.
Uh, so, classification and signs and symptoms of frostbite. So, frostbite is classified by depth injury and clinical presentation. The degree of the cold injury, just like burn injuries, in many cases, really isn't known for at least 24 to 72 hours. Classification of frost injury is identical to burn injuries, and there are 4 degrees of injury based on physical findings. So, first degree frostbite is just superficial injury limited to skin that has brief contact with cold air or metal. The skin appears red, progressing to white or yellow plaque at site of injury. There's no blister or tissue loss. Skin has stinging or aching sensation, pressing to numbness. Healing usually occurs in 7 to 10 days.
If it's
Second
red
degree
and it
frostbite,
hurts, that's a good sign.
yeah, if red and hurts, it's a very good sign. Means you still have good
We're
tissue
still
there.
okay.
Yep. Second degree frostbite involves all of the epidermis and superficial dermis. It initially appears like first degree frostbite. Thawing is rapid, which results in superficial skin blister that has clear or milky fluid after several hours. The tissue
Yum.
surrounding the injury is red. The tissue surrounding the injury is red and uh, edematous.
Edematous.
Edematous. That's a new one for me. Uh, there's no permanent loss of tissue, and healing occurs in 3 to 4 weeks. You know what I say, guys? It's getting worse. Don't glue your nuts to a metal pole
What is your obsession with
in the winter.
the nuts
Just don't
getting
do it
glued to a pole?
because we pull a lot of this information from marine manuals, and I've known Marines. I have to say it. Don't put your nuts on a metal pole.
You said edematous was a new one for you.
Yeah,
So breaking the word down, edema. So edema is swelling. So it just means it's red and swollen. It's
okay.
filled with tissue. Pus pocket. All it is.
Yum. Don't
Okay.
listen to this during third degree frostbite involves the epidermis and dermis layers, and frozen skin is stiff with restricted movement. After the tissue thaws, the skin swells, leaving blood-filled blisters, indicating vascular trauma to deep tissue. This is bad news, folks. And it just gets worse. Skin loss occurs slowly, leading to mummification and sloughing of tissue. Healing is very,
Yeah.
very, yeah, yeah. That
Chef's
gets
kiss.
the worst part. And this is difficult to think about.
The Billy
Fourth degree
Madison.
frostbite. Yeah, Billy Madison. Fourth degree frostbite. Frozen tissue involves full thickness completely through the dermis with muscle and bone involvement. There's
Golly.
absolutely no mobility to frozen tissue and only passive movement when thawed. It has poor skin perfusion,
You don't
uh,
say.
blisters, and edema do not develop. And you will see early signs of necrotic tissue. Slow mummification process will occur along with sloughing of tissue and auto amputation of non-viable tissue. Uh, uh,
Yeah, there's nothing there.
treatment.
There's
Yeah.
not there's nothing you can do.
Treat-
Like it's frozen through and through. There's no circulation. There's nothing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
it's
gone.
dead. It's done.
It should go without saying that frostbite, you know, if you're treating this in your mind, you need to be thinking ahead, right,
Mhm.
to infection.
Yes, absolutely. So treatment here, casualties with first and second degree frostbite should be placed with the affected area against a warm body surface, such as covering the casualty's ears with warm hands or placing affected fingers into armpits or groin region. Treatment of casualties with deeper frostbite includes moving them to warm shelter and providing supportive care, rapid immersion of affected area into warm water, cover with loose, dry, sterile dressing that is non-oppressive and non-adherent. I don't think I need to stress why that's important. After reading ugh, what happens with the 3 and 4, do not allow your casualty to walk on affected feet. Yeah, yeah. Fingers and toes should be separated and protected with sterile cotton gauze. Do not drain blisters in the field. Period. Hands down, don't do it. Just don't. It is a great way to get
Just
infection.
on I was gonna say on three, say infection. One, two, three, infection. It'll
Yes,
happen.
absolutely. Providing meds as needed. Give them that good. Not the glug, but the good. Start IV and give 150 milliliter bolus of warm saline to treat dehydration and reduce blood viscosity. Not give alcohol or cigarettes because of their vasoconstrictive properties. Do not use direct heat source greater than 102 degrees Fahrenheit on the affected area. Do not allow the thawed part to refreeze. So when the injured site refreezes, when the injured site freezes, thaws, and then refreezes, the second freezing causes a greater amount of severe thrombosis, vascular damage, and tissue loss. And of course, this goes without saying, has evac ASAP, as in emergency, as in right the freak now. Actually,
It
not
means
right the
go
freak now,
away.
like 5 minutes ago. Get them gone.
Yeah. No alcohol, no cigarettes. You lost privileges.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. You're on orders. You are on not even additional duty. Like you're not on extra duty. You're just done. You're done. You're getting kicked out, kind of thing.
Oh man. Guys, I know that
You know
was a longer one.
Oh
It
yeah,
was a lot, but with us getting into colder weather, these things it's so sneaky. cold weather injuries are so sneaky, and we take a lot of these things for granted, right? Being able to go into a warm building, be able to go from your car, your warm car, to your warm office or your warm house or whatever. And we need to start thinking ahead to times when we won't be able to do that. When you're going to have to live with this kind of stuff and be able to operate in these kind of environments for extended periods of time. So,
Yep.
want to bring that to you. Of course, all of our show notes, any additional material will all go up onto the Patreon for everyone to, view, take notes, screenshot, download, whatever. But that's about all I had. Do you have anything? Anything
None
else for
really.
their viewing pleasure?
I already stressed my point well enough, I think, earlier. For all you Marines out there.
Lay off the crayons. Protect your nuts. Guys, we are the Hard Time Strongman podcast, cheering up a bear class man talking about cold weather injuries this week. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight. Check out our Discord, where we talk about all of the topics that we talk about in our conversations, but in deep dive format. We have a lot of members on there of varying skill sets, of varying proficiencies, all talking about all these topics, sharing their experiences. So join today and help us expand our knowledge base.
And check out our Patreon. Our Patreon, outside of just backing up all of our episodes for when we eventually get canceled, our patrons get access to our exclusive episodes, our pre-shows, our post-shows, our little tidbits here and there that we aren't really supposed to talk about. We're also opening up all of these exclusive episodes for people to individually purchase. So you don't have to get tied into a tier in order to get all that content. You can dip your toes in a little bit, decide you like it, then come and join us on that. We're having exclusive conversations, and along with the Discord, we are just building that community, building that skill set, that mastery, these proficiencies. And this, outside of our sponsor, is what's keeping the lights on and keeping all of this information, all these classes rolling for you guys. So make sure to check out our Patreon. And one last thing, guys, the world is better with you in it. If you're feeling suicidal or if you're in crisis, dial 988 or reach out at 988lifeline.org to get help. Someone's always on the line. So if you need a lifeline, remember 988. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.